Okay. Well, welcome to, this is the third installment of Courageous Conversations facilitated by Stephanie Posey, living out our values of courage and public specifically. And we just had a couple more join us now. John Damer is signing in and Barda Wilson is joining us. Hey, John.
Hey, John.
I'll let Barda connect and then I'll say my prayer. We just got started. Hi, Barda. Welcome. Okay. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Holy and gracious God, we ask your blessings upon this conversation, upon our church. Give thanks for the gift of your Spirit that leads us always beyond ourselves, to know that we are loved even as you challenge us to grow and question our assumptions, to grow in ways that widen the circle of your love to include all people. In the strong name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I'm truly excited to be here. It's always a good day when I get to see church family. And I really do miss y'all. I miss Chicago, more or less. I miss my mom and y'all, but you know, the larger city too. So we're going to continue our conversation about anti-racism. And I do want to, Nina's going to say hi real quick.
Oh. Shoot, I missed. Oh, there, hi. Hello, so nice to see you. Welcome to the Midwest. Champaign-Urbana is not much to look at. But
I've heard, but I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad, happy to hear that. So I will go back to trying, let's see, hopefully I don't crash this whole thing now because my desire to see the screen there.
So while we're getting set up, I would like for all of us to go around, just do a quick check-in. It could be whatever you wish. It could be roses or thorns or highs and lows. Today was a really big day for the iSchool. We invited Sophia Noble. I'm the vice president of a student doc organization, and we invited Sophia Noble, who's the author of Algorithms of Oppression, out. And she actually came. She responded to our email like two minutes after we sent it a couple of weeks back. And we had a really, really great conversation about publishing and, you know, the not so fun task of intellectual development. And so that was a really big high. A low for me is because I've been planning for that all week. I did not plan for my presentation that I have to do tomorrow. So I'm going to be up. But sacrifices. It was a good conversation. Let's just popcorn it. Whoever wants to go next.
This is John. I'll go. Hi, everyone.
Hi, John.
So I carved out time for this, so I look forward to it. Yeah, it was what a few days, you know. You can come in. Laura's gonna maybe. We need another chair, of course. But we get that. So yeah, a lot of ups and downs, I guess, in the last week. It's been so thankful for kind of about where I work because of the way I work at LCC and very unique sort of way that place tried to sort of support one another, prepare one another for the election and what might happen either way and all that stuff. So that was a very unique experience for me. And it's just been, I guess part of that too is just sort of thankful for the good things I have, you know, this community, the work community, my family. So it's just been a kind of a whirlwind of emotions for me. So. It's not over yet. Yeah.
Mhm.
You want to say anything? How you feeling? What's going on in your life? How's it going?
Kind of listen to it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to Laura. Yeah.
Okay.
Should I call somebody or?
Yeah.
Okay. David, do you want to go next?
Sure. I guess just two lows. The pandemic just seems to be this specter that is just rising and rising, and then a president who is just ending his term kind of like in a way that I kind of expected him to. And just, I wish I could give you a high, but really it's the two lows. That's the best that I can do. And I'll popcorn it to Justin.
Yeah, I'm doing well this week. I am preparing for a couple upcoming bigger assignments before Thanksgiving week, and trying to catch up on some reading, and things are going along okay.
Good.
Yeah, I'll throw it over to Ken Olson.
Well, let's see. Low is probably that the condo that we live in had plumbing problems
Ooh.
the last couple of days. So like today we were without water most of the day.
Ooh.
The other day we had to move our car for 2 days, which meant that we had to stay in the condo because we were parked in somebody else's spot. And if they had come home, we'd have to move the car again and, all that type of thing. Good things have been mainly on the days when we didn't have to stay around the condo. Donna and I have been taking long walks along the lakeshore.
Sometimes all the way to Montrose Harbor.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a good 6 miles.
that's about a 6-mile walk round trip for us. So it's a good walk.
Yeah, we need it though.
Yeah, and the other good thing was I managed to get in to Loyola today and actually do an experiment, which I haven't been able to do in some time. So that was a good day too. I don't know. I'll go to Donna and then you can try to
Okay.
figure out if Richard and Barbara are still with us.
Yeah. To me, the low is all the garbage, with the election results and, people thinking it's not over yet. And, it's just so much bull. So I try not to think about it too much because it gives me a stomach ache. A high is we just an hour ago talked to 2 of our granddaughters that are really a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and we can't say that we haven't seen them in person since Christmas. Everything, but they always bring a smile, and so it helps keep us going.
Yeah.
So, Pastor.
Yeah, I think a lot of the sentiments that you have expressed are, kind of preoccupied right now with this resurgence of the virus, and what does that mean that we need to do as a faith community, and just how bad will these holidays be? I mean, they're getting just worse and worse. And we're supposed to say joys too, or
If you can find one.
You have one.
Yeah.
If you can find one.
I think this community is as a joy. It's great to be with you, and so I'm thankful for that.
Right on. Thanks, y'all. So we're going to continue our conversation and on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, Laura. You're muted.
You're muted.
I'm pretty happy today, and I'm really grateful for children in general, for my students who I have a lot of fun with. Even in Zoom, we dance and we jump and we play, and I'm really grateful for my children. Sophia is in quarantine right now, but she's doing well, and so I'm very happy that because of children.
Right.
Understood.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm sorry, I was not trying to gloss over you. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry.
So that's I was gonna say I miss you guys a lot, and it's really great to see you too.
Good to see you too, Laura.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I don't miss Chicago, because here we get tested. We have to get tested twice a week, and I wouldn't have that in Chicago. And I have so much beef with Chicago right now. Anyway, but I miss y'all. So in the vein of what we did last time, we're going to start with number 5. We ended with number 5. We want to start with number 5 from Anti-Racist Baby. And we're just going to popcorn the narrative, like so we're going to take turns reading, and then we're going to spend some time talking about if that theme or if that tool has showed up in our life. Before we get started, though, I want to return us to one of the first pages. I'm trying to find. So this page, it's like the second page, Pastor Monty. Well, it says, babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. And so for today, I want us to think about the ways that we were socialized. I know I was raised in a hyper white-centered house, and that my mom, she told us that we had to be 3 times, better just to be half as good. And, very like white supremacist logic reigned in our house, right? To the way we did our hair, to how we showed up in class, our expectations of larger society. And so I want us to remember that everyone in this US context has been affected by white supremacist logic. And so consider the ways that we have been socialized. I mean, it's an invitation to consider the ways that we have been socialized and how we have to, if not re-socialize, then to actively unlearn those things that, mean our community harm and really don't do us good, do us well. So we're on the 5th one. And whoever wants to read can read.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Anti-racist baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-racist baby loves a world that's truly diverse.
Mm-hmm. And that top tagline.
Oh, celebrate all our differences.
Yes. I went to high school, right, on Thome Street. Well, it's technically on Granville. And it was the most diverse school to this date that I've ever been to. And I remember Miss Sina, she was my first grade teacher at the school. I can't remember now. It was throughout the year. We had to bring in food from our culture. Y'all, it was the best days. It was the best days ever. I remember doing it twice with her. And then when we got to 6th grade, we went back. Like, if you were a good enough student, you could go help her. I made sure that year that I was like the best of the best. So I could eat everyone's food. But it's actively celebrating differences. Does anyone have experience? Or how do we actively celebrate differences in our lives?
Well, I think food, you hit one point right there, is food is a definite thing that people love to share with people from other groups, other cultures, because it's just fun. And so in some ways, I think, if you can make the sharing of cultures and different sort of things like that a really good experience for people, then you have more of it.
Yeah.
I do, there for a while, the world culture was getting very homogenized, and it was being dominated by US materialistic
Mhm.
type culture. And that still remains a problem, I think, worldwide. But it is interesting to see in some other countries where there's smaller groups. I'm thinking like the Basques or the Catalans in Spain, since we were just in Spain about 6 months ago, but right before pandemic hit. That they've tried to strengthen their identity.
Mhm.
I just hope it doesn't end up in violence, because other people don't want to let them do it.
Mhm.
I've had some negative experiences with this too, I think. And partly it is maybe it's a school that has an international night or something, and it feels a little, I don't know, it just feels a little bit like here's our international people, they're so cute. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe if it doesn't go any farther than that.
Like a tokenization.
I experienced it in a very white preparatory suburban school, and maybe that was part of it too.
Mhm.
That context.
Yeah, that's quite true.
It's like they do it one night and they're it's
that's-
taken care of.
Check
You know,
the
they
box
did-
off,
yeah,
we
they
don't have
did
to
their
do it again.
duty. They did their
Mm.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit like all these other people have ethnicities, but white people don't.
Ah,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting to see. I mean, white population does have a diversity of backgrounds, but we have also in the US, so it is still a melting pot. So a lot of these backgrounds are getting merged together or fused, whatever you want to say, in that type of thing. And I don't know how that eventually works out. If you have a family where the ancestry has, from 10 different areas of the world,
Yeah.
are we going to lose, are we going to become maybe truly American then, but also lose that input? And I enjoy learning about and experiencing here in the US cultures from other parts that our citizens have brought to this country, because I think it's a real strength for the United States. I'd hate to see us lose that.
Well, and one place I experience this is in our hymn book. I think that sometimes some of the hymns that we sing from other cultures are fun, either lyrically or just the tune.
John, I saw that you unmuted. I don't know if one of you I wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think segregation is the worst thing that exists in order to actually appreciate one another, like separation, division, geographically or in any ways. Having friends, getting to know people, for me is the best way of appreciating them, because you finally, when you meet people, you see all the things you have in common, and you stop just seeing just the exterior of everything, but finally you see the inside of everybody and see our things in common and know our differences.
I agree.
Yeah, I guess I'll just add a few things that may be relevant or random, but I think so. Thinking about this idea of like the pictures, sort of people sharing about their cultures. I think our daughters had a better experience with that than I did, and it was fairly authentic when this happened in the classroom setting, for example, that parents would participate and just be free to share what they wanted to share. And so there was lots of celebrations and family traditions and things like that that could be shared. There were no limits about that. I don't recall any of that growing up whatsoever, of learning about anybody else's sort of life, or not much in terms of how, different ways people celebrate stuff. I also think this idea of culture, because Pastor Monte mentioned the idea that we often feel as white people. One more thing that makes us like sort of feel sorry for ourselves is like, we don't have a culture, but actually we do. It's everything, It's just our culture, and the white culture is just what life is, right? So, and we have a hard time even defining that for ourselves. What does that mean, And other people get to have cultures and fun stuff. Yeah. Lucky for us, we get to eat their food, So we have that too. But I'm just sort of thinking about how we have a hard time sort of even defining the culture that we've created for ourselves, and have asked other people to sort of accommodate to, without admitting that it is a thing, a culture, for good, whether it's good culture or bad culture. Yeah, I guess that's what was going through my mind. Yeah. And I think I just had gone through this session about cultural identity and my I forgot, how should I put it, or my understanding of that. And so it was very self-reflective, and there's a spectrum of where you are on that, and I guess I'm where most people are, in that I mostly appreciate the commonalities that I find in other people, which is not necessarily a bad place to be, but it's thinking about how do we grow closer and learn about one another and appreciate one another because of the differences too, right? Anyway, more stuff to think about. Yeah,
I agree. And I think it's also good to recognize that on the quest to becoming white, right, a lot of European immigrants committed a violence against their own culture, right? So we can't speak the language, we can't eat this food because it stinks or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Toni Morrison talks really extensively about this. And one of the tools of white supremacy really is to ensure that operating in whiteness means to be anti-Black, right? And so she talks a lot about growing up in Lorain, Ohio, and blah blah blah. It's a lot of stuff out there that she talks about. But she grew up with a lot of European immigrants, and they were like, "Oh, you poor? I am too. Cool. We're equal. You don't have shoes. I don't have shoes. Cool. But at least I'm not Black. Like, at least I'm not Black, right?" So it's really interesting to hear her talk about that and the differences. I love food. You don't get this size by disliking food. And so my funnest thing is watching like the Travel Channel. Some of the programs are problematic, but thinking about like meat pies, every culture has some form of a meat pie, whether that's like a Hot Pocket, a pizza puff, or like a empanada. It's so cool. Like we all think the same in some
pot stickers.
Yeah, pot stickers. It's really cool. But that's the celebration of differences, and we don't have to compromise our culture. Like we're all good, we're all sufficient and enough. And that's what makes us beautiful, I think. I don't know. Who am I? So number 6.
A second. Okay.
Just jump in.
We have knocked down a stack of cultural blocks. Anti-racist baby appreciates how groups speak, dance, and create as they choose. Anti-racist baby welcomes all groups voicing their unique views.
Yeah. I think this one was really hard for me to unlearn, especially as a Christian, because I went to school with a lot of Muslim children. And so I'm like, first of all, you're going to hell because you don't, love Jesus. Second of all, it's there, during Ramadan, it'll be, they wouldn't eat lunch. And it's like, oh, this is child abuse type of thing. So it was really difficult. I spent a lot of time in college just being haunted by the way I treated my Muslim peers in elementary school. I was also like, between 6 and 14, we're all a little dumb. But yeah, others?
Looks like Justin's winding up to say something.
Oh, I don't know. I grew up with a lot of household that watched a lot of Westerns and Western movies, and I think just a majority of those movies have a very stereotypical one-dimensional portrayal of American indigenous groups, which really reflects into a lot of parts of Nebraska as well, that sort of Omaha takes its name from the Omaha Indian Nation. And there's slowly, sort of as I grew up, learning all the ways that we've appropriated the land and created highways over sacred ground, and how none of that's appreciated, and seeing that sort of reflected poorly in the popular media we consume. And so I resonate with a lot of what you just said there, Steph.
I think the challenge is to speak across our differences and not just accept every difference as the same, but that not just totally relative, but also to be open to learning from other groups. I think that's a challenge. That we want to love our enemies, but not just love but also may challenge some things about their behavior, or maybe, their worldviews.
One of the difficulties, I think, is in order to appreciate and other groups, you have to be able to interact with them. So if you have a totally segregated world, which largely, Chicago has long been known to be the most segregated city in the United States. And having lived in the South, where you might expect there to be more segregation, there actually is less than what you have in Chicago. At least not in my experience. And so one of the problems here in terms of appreciating all the cultures and things is to actually get exposed to them. And I grew up out in the northwest suburbs, Park Ridge to be exact, and you just weren't exposed. It just wasn't part of the game plan, so to speak. That's gradually changing, but let us face it, it's pretty gradual.
That they're not exposed.
No, I mean, it's changing, but it's not changing
fast.
It's changing at what I would call a glacial pace. In fact, actually, glaciers these days are probably receding faster than
Well, I mean, there are communities that are built on the idea of segregation. That we can make a better community by kind of walling it off.
Which is a very American ideal, right? That's very, I think, I don't know. I just think of how I think of gangsters, like, of the 1920s, the earliest 20th centuries. And then I think of Chicago gangs right now. And the philosophy is absolutely the exact same, right? In the same way that the philosophy of closing off to protect is a very US ideal.
Well, it's maybe it's very instinctual. Might go all into the human species. I mean,
Yeah,
churches, church. I mean, especially Protestant churches. When we get in an argument, we just split. Some just now we have first Lutheran, and now there's second Lutheran down the street.
That's so true. It's the same with I didn't realize the Church of God in Christ, the founder of Church of God in Christ, he grew up Methodist. And he was like, he got mad at his pastor. He was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. And now he has a whole entire, century-old denomination. It's really interesting. But is there a way, and I suppose maybe it's not is there a way, but how do we talk about unique views and differences? Because I immediately go to arguing, and I can't talk to you, I'm gonna block you off, I don't want to hear it. If not dehumanizing, right? Like I can't talk to someone with your type of views. But then how do we grow? Like what is that process literally?
I think that's, I wonder if it's even more difficult now. I find myself not wanting to engage in substance conversations with almost anybody that I don't know really well, because you just don't know where it's going to go. What I mean? And I hear people kind of doing that with me too, like, so it's weird, just because of the political
the politics
and all that. Yeah. So, but as Ken was saying, since we don't often interact with folks, other than, workplaces is one way often, but you can often interact strictly on work matters, right? Or even, we could do more in your place right now, Stephanie, as a student, that should be a little more obvious, and that's, that's what you're there for. But still, you can, even in a classroom setting, you can focus mainly on class stuff, when you're talking with someone who's different than you or whatever. Anyways, I do think this is one of those areas that's, needs to be intentional and also feel almost even like weird sometimes, like, oh, I'm gonna go make myself a friend, of a Muslim or something, just because I need to do that for myself, or is that weird, or is that inauthentic, or I don't have enough Black friends, I really should have more. Let me go make a Black friend because that's what I need to do, to like grow myself.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point. One, making friends as an adult is really, really hard. It's so difficult. I feel so awkward, trying to talk to colleagues. Like, you seem really cool. You want to
let's go be friends.
Play? I don't know. You want to go out to eat? You want to? I don't know. It's hard.
Stack up these blocks.
Yeah, but is there room for it to happen organically too? Like, I don't have any Latinx folks, in my life. Do I go on Facebook and say, let me find the first Latinx, book club there is? Or, I don't know, do I just chuck it up to...
Yeah, and I think that, I'll just add too, I think most people probably welcome it, even if it's very, especially if it's very honest, like, you know what, you seem really cool, I'd love to go meet with you, have coffee with you, because to be honest with you, I don't have that many friends who are X,
Yeah.
And so that, I think that's kind of weird for me. But I don't know. Or just, you don't have to be that explicit about it. But I think most people are probably would welcome like more friends in their lives and more social time. You know what I mean? So they're probably like, oh, great, thanks. Somebody actually wants to be my friend.
Yeah.
I think that's hard and fraught. Like, who are you, my friend?
Yeah.
But and it may seem a little abstract, but I think that our gospel, really helps. It helps me. If I have that confidence and faith when I meet someone, that I would welcome them as Christ. That there's something about them will will be interesting and beautiful and could learn from, or whatever it is, just to have that kind of expectation and not just like, here comes that SOB again.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that openness is part of the absolutely necessary ingredient to reaching across these differences. Because if people smell that hostility and anger, or man, that's also very instinctive, you know. Get out your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We
Walk
immediately go to defense. You're
Yeah.
And I think that's human nature.
Yeah.
I don't know. Human nature, what is this thing? I don't know. But I think it's very it makes sense to immediately like clinch and defend.
We're set up biologically to either have fight or flight
Mm-hmm.
situations. I mean, we either fight the situation or we run away from it.
Yeah. Cool. Number 7. Oh, David, did I cut you off?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, geez, that's
Yeah.
hey man, you're calling it out right there. Okay.
I heard something the other day where like all learning is basically failing. So if you don't let yourself acknowledge or take the risk to screw up or like, be racist,
Yeah.
like, you know, you're kind of frozen. You can't really make progress.
It's true. Okay, so confess when you're being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideas that we sometimes express. It sounds good, but will we lose people? Like, how do I know I won't lose my closest friends to say, not only am I racist, I'm also ableist, and as a queer woman, I'm homophobic, as you know, I'm all of the things, right? Now I won't have anybody in my corner. So I have to say, like, no, I'm not that. Even though in my head I know what I'm thinking and I know that thing has to be disrupted. It's scary to be that honest. For fear of rejection, I think. I can only speak for myself.
But we don't admit it even to ourselves that we're racist. So, you know, we don't, notice it. We don't think, oh no, that's not a racist thing, you know, and I think sometimes people just don't know what it is. Or
Well, I think a lot of times we need others around us to help point this stuff out, right?
Yeah.
And that's also hard because that's accepting criticism, or maybe it's embarrassing or humiliating.
Well, it's very hard on both sides of that. The person who's being told, hey, you just said something that's racist. But it's also, because of that fear of, if that's a friend, are you going to lose the friend over this? Do you want to lose the friend over this? Probably not. So, do you do it?
Yeah, and I think I would just add a couple of things. This is powerful right here. And I think the irony is that if a person you consider a friend sort of calls you out on something being racist, like you actually sort of defending or trying to explain why it's not is not like
not helpful.
Does not help, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like that actually almost will ruin the friendship more quickly than, you know what, you're probably right. That's
yeah.
So sorry. You know.
Or at least like, tell me more. What do you mean?
Yeah, or tell me, you know what, you felt that way, so you must have been feeling something, hearing something that I'm not. So please tell me. Now, how many times have I done that in my life? Since I've read that about, in my white fragility book. But so I don't know. I think that it really it struck me then, this strikes, I think, like many things in life, and if we are, the thing we're most afraid of, we just kind of like let it happen. And then it's like, okay, it wasn't that bad. Actually, it's better, confessing all kinds of things,
It's true.
if you've confessed something to somebody that was like weighing on you, because you thought, and that was going to ruin everything, and it didn't, because you were honest,
Yeah.
But I'm not even saying it's easy, but I think this is a really powerful slide here, or page of the book. Yeah.
And I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's very hard to be honest like that too, because
Yeah, without being kind of judgmental and superior and
Yes.
caught you.
Yes. And that's, I think, is what is happening in larger society. I think we are looking for a gotcha moment, but that's not healing. Like, I'm not going to have my phone out waiting for you to cuss me out on the CTA. The CTA stinks and it's irritating. Everybody is upset, right? Like, it's horrible. And that's coming from a devout CTA person. But I think of the corniness of literally how would Christ handle this type of situation. I mean, it's hard to think of Christ having a cell phone, like, oh, what is he going to do next? But I think racism is becoming racist is becoming a dead word, right? Because everything is now being attached to all actions are being attached to this word, when it's really people being impatient and rude. That's a little different than racist, but still.
I think there's I'm just going to add that as if there's a line right here, right, that you can't even see. And then below that line is not racist, and above the line is racist. Like, there's just no, so I agree with you that trying to figure out, is it or not? Like, it's not the question, right? Yeah. So one of them is like, is it anti-racist? Well, we know it's not that.
Right.
Yeah. That's one thing I really appreciate about Kendi's kind of approach and his adding this to the kind of our whole vocabulary in the United States. That the point is to just kind of confront it and racism, and to be dismantling it wherever we encounter it. And there's a lot of places to dismantle it.
Yes, including our thoughts.
I think it's a big thing that we, even as people, as far as this confessing, like it says, confess when being racist. Not, as it says here too, it doesn't say confess when being a racist, right?
Yes.
It just means in that moment I did something or said something that was racist, and there was someone here to hear it or see it or tell me about it.
Yeah. I think that's a point that Kendi makes, isn't it? I mean, it's like, it's a racist behavior, a racist thing to say.
Yes.
Is that back at the beginning of the book? I forget.
Sorry, I missed that part. But I think also in this mindset too, and I think the inescapability of what racism has done to us, as all of us. Yeah.
I think point 3 also speaks to that.
Point at policies as the problem of people.
Not people.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little cardboard children's book. I went too far.
Yeah.
When you're doing it one-on-one, it's very difficult not for the other person or for you, if somebody's telling you, hey, that was a racist statement, that it sounds like you're really being accused.
Yeah. And I think
and so the defenses go up immediately.
Right.
Yeah. That's tough. Yeah. It's how to get around that.
Yeah, in our dominant imagination, we still think of overt racism, right? Like, I didn't burn a cross in anyone's front yard. I don't have a hood. I'm not going to the Knights of whatever. So surely I can't be a racist. But I think our dominant imagination is slowly turning and shifting because of books like these, because we're able to spot policy that has negative impact on Black people, BIPOC people. So, yes, number 8.
Right. Grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-racist baby is always learning, changing, and growing. Anti-racist baby stays curious about all people and isn't all knowing.
Oh, boo. I want to be all knowing.
Humility.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And curiosity.
Yeah.
Some ways, I think this is an easier one to actually do than the previous. I think the previous one was really tough.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
right about that. But
Yeah.
but to some degree, I mean, it's certainly trying to keep your mind open to change and changing your opinions and that type of thing, and to being curious about people. I think there's a lot of folks who can do that. So this is one.
I'm going to shift back to 7 just so Laura can see what we were just talking
Now
about.
this one at 7 was, I thought, really tough.
Yeah.
I'll just add to this thing. I think this obviously is important. I think there's also this idea that we should all of us should also realize, maybe individually but also as a society, like we're never going to be there, right? And that's okay. We should always be striving. Yeah. Just like Martin Luther tells us, right? We're on the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're never going to reach the point again where we cross the line that says, and now we are not racist, none of us, right? Two seconds ago, we were still a little bit, but now we're not. So we'll never get there. So we always, always, always need to be thinking about this and growing. I mean, we got a long way to go but we have to always be working on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. All right. Number 9.
Believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-racist baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend, and doesn't just judge a book by its cover, but reads until the end.
So cute.
Clever.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I have difficulty really believing that racism can be overcame. I don't know, that we could overcome racism. Because the moment I feel like, and it was an incident right at the here at the school at UIUC, with the police officer, not a police officer, but he was supposed to be in charge of the oversight board that looked at racist behavior of campus police. And on his Twitter, it was like a whole bunch of horrible, racist, hot garbage, steaming, piping hot garbage. And I'm like, we were so close to holding people accountable, but the person you put in charge,
Wow.
Yeah.
pretty gross.
Too bad.
Yeah, it's really disheartening sometimes. I think this one is my most difficult one. I don't know if we can. I don't know. I want to believe, but.
Well, I mean, but it's having that hope is what, and optimism is what keeps us from just being cynical and despairing. And
yeah.
And we're going to be entering in the season of Advent. That's kind of one of the whole sub themes of Advent is there's no sign of it. There's no sign of God. There's no sign of grace. Everything is terrible. The world is falling apart. but we're going to live, with the expectation of God's grace breaking in at any minute.
Well, I guess I would say, because I'm likely to be the oldest person on this conversation tonight, and I mean, I think I've seen, I think we've seen over my lifetime certainly some change for the better. And that does give some hope. I mean, not anywhere that we're anywhere close to being where we need to be, but I think we've seen some change for the better.
Yeah.
And so, but the problem is, again, it's the fact that the change is so slow. It is so, that's very frustrating. I mean, that's what I find most difficult here in terms of addressing these issues.
Or there's such a pendulum swing, a retrenchment, a reaction. You make some progress and then rush to
2 steps forward, 1 step back type thing, or maybe 3 steps back or something. It's very tough. So but I think in a long range situation, you look over a long enough, but who wants to wait? That's the real problem, I guess. I mean, when you're concerned about this, about racism and its predominance in our culture, and that you just don't want to have the slow speed, because that we've been going under for forever in this country.
Yeah.
And that's not just the U.S. I mean, this is a worldwide problem, but the U.S. has a particular history of it.
Some people, it's just so ingrained in them to be racist. They grew up, their parents taught them to be racist, and even though you're trying, sometimes you still fall back because it's just such a part of you. And no matter how long ago that was, when I was a little girl, my parents were very racist, and I still find myself thinking in that mode a little bit. I have to switch gears. It's just tough. It's very hard.
But and I think Stephanie said something earlier that the term a racist isn't being, I mean, it's hard to ever hear somebody say, "Oh yes, I am a racist, and I have no problem with being a racist." I mean, even the president, when he's accused of saying something racist, says, "Oh, I'm not a racist."
I don't think he knows what the word means.
I was just gonna say, I was reading that again. It says that we shall overcome racism versus believing, meaning we believe we shall overcome it. We have to overcome it, right? It's an action, actions we're doing versus we believe racism will dissipate. For some reason, we don't know why. Doing nothing won't overcome it, right? But,
Oh, there's like a action. There's activeness.
Yeah, that's Martin Luther King, Birmingham jail. He makes that point. Like Ken was saying. We've seen this progress, but you have to. That takes real work and sacrifice and people's blood often to make that progress. It's not inevitable.
I think that sacrifice thing. And if someone said, well, what would you sacrifice to make this better? I don't know. I guess one thing that white people are dealing with is like, is there a way to get rid of racism without me giving up a thing? I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real part of the problem. Because many whites, when you look at it, say, well, gee, I'd love if the economic playing field was more even, but I don't want mine lowered at all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where people are coming from. Right?
I remember Paul Koch, a pastor at Ebenezer, and I don't know if he was quoting somebody, he probably was, but I always remembered he's saying to me once that justice always comes with a price.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's always a
Yeah.
price.
But is it a zero-sum game?
No, I don't think so at all.
No,
I don't think so. It leads to a kind of a wider abundance,
Yes.
but there'll be some price paid too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
and particularly during the process. I mean, you know,
yeah,
maybe the end state can be higher, but it's the process.
yeah. Whether it be the scar you always have in your flesh, or the person who died, or maybe somebody's house was burned down, or your portfolio in retirement isn't quite as hot as it could have been. I don't know. There's all kinds of ways.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
there, I mean, yeah, even just on a strict economic basis, we'll have more prosperity overall. If everybody can be prosperous.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And so,
A lot of it, and this isn't really a racism argument at the moment, but the idea that we have a top 1% that controls so much of the economy and so much riches. That's problematic for everybody, I think, because then you don't have a good distribution of wealth in the country.
Well, if Jeff Bezos gave up half his wealth, we'll all be good in the country. Just
pretty interesting.
Well, the Europeans are going to hit him for 10% of his total sales.
whoa,
That's going to be
wow.
that's going to be a chunk of funding that I don't know what they're going to do with it, but they're probably going to fund Europe on this.
I do think, I mean, you bring up a really good point. I don't think it's a zero-sum game, but everyone will have to give up something, even if it is just our ideas about what is righteous, good, best, normal. And those intellectual institutions, I think, are the most difficult to give up, right? Like I'm in a PhD program. Surely, I have literal investment in, knowledge production. And so if in 10 years someone comes up to me and say, you know what, cyborgs, not a thing, they suck. No, I wrote 300,000 pages on why they're a thing. You can't erase that, right? And essentially that's what we're trying to say, right? Like the things that you have once believed in, not only are they harmful and they cause people's, they require other people's death. We don't want to use those knowledges anymore. People with high investment are like, I want my flag, I want my statues, I want, whatever. So I get it, but y'all have to sacrifice.
Yeah, if there's not, it only in some ways the curve toward change only gets more difficult when when there's economic disparities like what we're experiencing now. I mean, people just get more focused on their own piece of the pie. And if that means I have to cut out Muslims, or if I have to cut out people of color, or I have to cut out people from blue states, or whatever.
Well, it's always very easy to say, okay, there's that group over there, and they're the cause of my problems.
Yeah.
And when you talk to people who say things that are overtly racist, that's exactly what they're saying. Those people over there, whether it's blacks or Latinx or what, doesn't matter. Germany in the 30s, it was Jews. It's the same thing. It really is, in that sense.
So on the second to last, on the last page, I don't know actually how it will show up. Yeah,
Oh,
on the last column, if someone could read that, I think that sums up
You read that? I can't.
that last paragraph.
I
Oh,
can
is there a
read
way to make it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger on my screen. So remember to talk to your kids about how people aren't just racist or anti-racist, but rather how their actions can be racist or anti-racist. Did I read that wrong?
Nope.
No, you read that.
Kids might understand how this is similar to when we say we don't consider them to be a bad kid when they do something wrong, but we must acknowledge that they made a bad choice. They have the opportunity to make a better choice the next time because we know that identity is not fixed. Being anti-racist is about what we do, not who we are. Being measured by our actions allows us to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Ibram X. Kendi.
Beautifully put.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think for me, that softens the blow. Like softens the blow. There's always room to grow. Oh, but I do think that it makes it more flexible and fluid, that it's actually okay to mess up and that I won't get interactions with people right every single time. Um, but it takes a courageous community, I think, to hold people accountable. Um, or to have the desire to hold people accountable in the first place.
Well, and we've seen how difficult that is to do. I mean, this year with the police situation, where you finally had some degree of breakthrough with the white population realizing how bad it was. I think more so than I've ever seen before. But it still hasn't come through with any concrete improvements situation. I mean, at least it doesn't look like it to me. So.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff with police actions, it's like I don't know, maybe there's some improvement there, but there's this idea that you look at this particular situation of police violence and somehow figure out, well, was it based because of racism or not? Like there's a yes, no question there versus like, no, it's a whole culture, right? That puts people in situations where this stuff can happen because of the way police have been trained, because society has taught all of us all this stuff, this is all in this one big toxic mix versus, yes, that police officer acted very racist in that one example, and we have to figure out if we're going to put someone in jail or not, convict them of a crime in particular versus let's look at this big, huge societal problem. Like how do we, but we always, it comes down to how we treat the particular officer in that moment, and whether he was right or wrong or she was right or wrong, which you should do, but still, it's like it's everything. It's like everything is involved in this, Anyway.
Well, we've come to the end of our time, and just some next steps. The outreach team is talking about convening people at Immanuel that have been through some anti-racism training, so as just to talk about opportunities to confront racism, and just kind of maybe craft an agenda for our lives, our families, or our church. So that's one thing I know the outreach team is planning to do. There's like 15 people or so that have been through some type of training at Immanuel. So just to get them together and just say, what are you thinking?
Mhm. Mhm.
It would just be interesting. But there might be also ways to continue this type of conversation. I don't know what your thoughts are.
The discussion helps, it kind of jot things and gives you some ideas,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea to continue with that.
I concur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also supports communication outside of just this scene too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Stephanie, thank you for facilitating.
Yes, thanks, Stephanie.
No problem.
Great.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thanks for being open.
The book is like, good for little kids, so that's where we got to start. I think. No, it's
Yeah.
That is right. If you start with little kids, you'll do a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
The two set in their ways.
I liked it a lot, because of the pictures and the kids were all different. John knows that I feel unsafe when everybody looks the same. It's a weird thing, maybe because I'm from Costa Rica, but if I see an African American person, I feel safer. If I see, I don't know. When I see diversity, I feel safer.
yeah.
I like the pictures.
Yeah.
I thought about that, but that's probably, there should be some statistical studies on that. Is a largely mixed race community more likely to be safe than one that is monolically one race, for example?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody, I'm not, it's not my area, so of intellectual expertise, put it that way.
Yeah, I think we had some. I'll just add to that because we've gone back and forth several times down to Georgia, but when we travel and we're in situations where it's just white people, like in a space in a rest area and a thing, or a diner, you're just like,
I don't want to talk.
Like,
It's weird.
it's weird. I mean, that's how we're starting to feel now. I think because of the environment that we've been politically, like, just how many people have a gun in their pocket, how many people, these crazy people,
Yeah.
It's like, but if it makes it people, like, okay, I guess, like,
Well, if you're in a situation, and I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in a situation where I see somebody carrying a gun,
okay,
that really bugs the heck out of me. I mean,
that's super scary.
I was in Texas and I didn't know that they were a carry state.
Yeah.
And I had my nephews and we were at Walmart and I saw this fellow with a gun and I was like, hurry up, get into the van. And I called my sister and she was like, yeah, that happens all the time. I'm like, this is an emergency situation. He has a gun on his hip, sister.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we need milk and eggs. So go. I'll get us milk and eggs. It was just
yeah. But that's I think,
It was another topic.
another topic. Yeah, guns are another topic that I'm sure we can spend.
Well, yeah, except guns. White people with guns is okay, but black people with guns,
I don't like anybody with guns, Monty. Really.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah,
it's a
good
different
point.
Feeling people are doing the trigger, but it's
yeah.
harder to kill somebody with a knife.
It is.
Yeah.
It is
More
much harder
intimate.
to kill somebody with a knife. What a ending to
I
our.
Wow.
Hey, I'm gonna ask Justin.
It's all about our actions, not about who we are. Yeah.
Hey, Justin, can you pray us out?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. The Lord be with you.
And also,
Also with you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together tonight, and for allowing us to confront some hard truths about the world we live in. We ask that you be present with us as we attempt to confront those hard truths in ourselves, and seek out ways to build each other up as a community, to continue the work of increasing diversity and inclusivity and making sure all your children know they are loved and cared for. And we look to Christ as our way forward in this. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you all.
Hope you'll all be
Okay.
here next week. We are going to see the inside of Sagrada Familia, the large church in Barcelona. I'm subtitled it A Symphony of Light because this church has the most phenomenal play of light through the windows hitting the interior of the church of any place I've ever been.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
a lot of pretty pictures next
Yes.
time. So I
You'll
hope
love
you're
it.
here. You'll love it, right?
Yeah. Even saying that is an understatement, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it any better, but
Yeah, we
well,
can't.
that's the reason I'll
Words.
show pictures.
And they still won't do it justice.
Yeah,
you know.
probably not.
All right.
Well.
Thank you guys.
Okay.